us. So she's from Similarweb. She's the director of many things, but basically the emerging solutions at Similarweb. So that's everything that isn't the web. So she's got some great insights to share with you. But I thought I'd just start and introduce the idea of like why we're all here and why we're sort of pushing this privacy-led marketing. So for us, what we've been looking at is basically how marketing has evolved roughly in every sort of second decade. So every 20 years, there's a big seismic shift. So if we look at when marketing kind of came about as a thing around the 60s, we started with the 4 Ps of marketing. So product, price, place, and promotion, and that was how we built our marketing strategies. And as that matured, we got through to the big consumer culture of the 80s. We added people, processes, and packaging or physical evidence. And as that kind of moved along, we got into the 2000s, and we all went online, and digital technologies were there, and we were all about tracking and getting all the data, and it was all performance-driven. And essentially what we've seen is with the introduction of all the different legislation and all the misuse of data that we've gone through, privacy has emerged in the last few years, you know, on the back of GDPR, but it has come forward as something that's not just a sort of checkbox that you tick in terms of compliance, but it's actually become a competitive advantage. So actually understanding with your data, what data you're collecting and how you're using it. And also thinking about when you collect the data. So it's about building a journey and a relationship with your customers for them to give you the right consent at the right time and share data that's valuable. So over the course of the next, you know, or this masterclass today and over yesterday and later on this afternoon, we've brought in lots of different speakers. And the reason why is basically it can be, I mean, these are stats from McKinsey, but there's up to 81% of consumers these days will actually walk away from a brand that misuses their data. And in the face of AI, this is getting worse because consumer perception now, you know, there's a lot of fear and distrust of AI, and it's making people make different decisions. And obviously as marketers, we're only as good as the data we have. So paying attention to this is very important. And particularly from our end, it's about the user-based consented journey. So it's very granular data. But when it comes to Marta and Similarweb, they're looking obviously at the mega trends, and so larger trends that she's going to go into. So as I said, we've got a few more sessions. We've done some other ones on SEO growth. You can check out the LinkedIn or the YouTube live videos. We've also looked at brand strategies and email marketing yesterday, and today we're here with Marta, and she's going to take us through competitive intelligence.
Thank you so much. So hello, everyone. I hope you already had some lunch. I saw the queues are quite long out there. What I really loved about what we just heard is like a brands fail when they lose the market to their competitor. And that's why I believe like a competitive intelligence is very, very important. I will share a few stories today about like how competitive data can really be translated into the advice how businesses can grow. So not only to protect your market shares, but also actually how to get to the top. Just a few words about Similarweb. We are just digital data company. The name in the company is Similarweb, and we started 10 years ago as the web traffic competitors, web traffic measurement. Everybody was saying it's Google Analytics for your competitor. But company evolved since then a lot, and right now we cover so many data points. It's not only on websites, it's also on apps, both iOS and Android. It's very granular to the specific landing pages. It's getting into the customer sentiment from the app reviews. It can go into the search terms whenever consumers are searching in Google or ChatGPT or on YouTube or on Amazon. We can collect this all, and we could also estimate data to the SKU level, so the very granular product level, which is so important for the CPG companies. So we provide a lot of data. Of course, all this data is collected in absolutely privacy compliant way. So we have a multiple data sources. One of them is like the largest global consumer panel in the world when consumers give us consent. So we would use their anonymized and aggregated data, and this is how we are able to estimate trends on your competitors, on the entire market, and aggregated consumer behavior trends. This data collection process, and then even more important, data cleaning, organized process is nowadays powered by AI. Of course, with everything that LLMs can do for us, but this is really a massive machine learning process, and it has been on machine learning for over 10 years. And the data itself is not as important as how actually companies would use this data to take some business decisions. And I just decided to list here 4 examples how our clients would use the competitive data in their daily reporting, in the daily decision-taking process. So the most important is the contextualizing your market performance. So you know your own numbers perfectly. You know your numbers from your first-party data. You also know your numbers from your sales performance data. You get to your company internal reporting, and you have everything. Whenever you declined in your revenue, in your sales, you don't know what's the context. Is it because you did something wrong? Is it in line with the market trend? Is it that specific competitor actually took away your market shares? So this is why contextualizing market performance is so important. Very a traditional way to look at it is just at market shares. And it's funny that we were mentioning a 4P back to 60s previous century, because actually when you think about the 4P marketing and understanding the market shares in the digital world, it's not so easy. You need to rely on proxies. You have perfect measurement of your own data, but when it comes to outside of the world, it's not really very easy. The world in the digital is very fragmented, very long tail. But we are able to give you some proxies to measure your market shares, and actually on each stage of the funnel, on the customer acquisition, engagement, monetization, and retention. The second very important use case for the competitive intelligence is to have a full view of your customer. Of course, in your first-party data, you could track what's happening on your page for anybody who gave you the consent to track, but you don't know what was happening before, and I'm not speaking one click before, right? But just a few clicks before, as well as what's happening after, what's happening in the meantime. And this is why it's so important to uncover the full customer journey, which nowadays very often is starting in ChatGPT, not only in Google or on social media, but also trying to understand which other competitive brands are considered during this journey and during this process. That will help us to interpret our own numbers better and actually shift better strategies, create better products and services. The third very important use case is reverse engineering of your competitors' activities, their successes. So how they managed to grow. You could really X-ray them quite detailed and granular way, but also spot all the weaknesses or failures, so you could also use it in your strategy. And last but not least, all the time understanding the market, tracking new market opportunities, white spaces, which would be the best and most economical for you to expand into. So these are just the 4 theoretical use cases of the competitive intelligence, but right now I will actually show you the real data and the real examples. The first group of the examples would be on the beauty sector. I will be using data about the e-commerce strategies in beauty in Germany, in the UK, so we will be speaking about the European markets. And in the second part of this presentation, I will show you something from the fintech area. It will be financial services with the focus on apps and generative AI. So let's start with the e-commerce, and let's start with beauty first. the three stories I will be speaking about are on using the data, the competitive data, to take the specific decisions. The first example is to shift distribution and retail media strategy, using the data, using the market, contextualizing all the time our position. And I will be showing the example of the beauty category winner in Germany. Then I will show the example of the INKI list that used this blue ocean strategy, so the white spacing strategy, to launch the new products. And the last but not least, I will show you also a few insights from our recent studies on the TikTok and ChatGPT impact on both purchases and consumers' discovery in beauty. So let's get it started. The beauty category in Germany, so cosmetic category on German Amazon, has like last 12 months, 100 million units sold, more than 2 billion revenue. So it's really significant in terms of the size. You could see hair, skin, and body care being the top three here. Can you guess which brand in Germany in last 12 months was selling which brands had the bestseller product? Which product of which brand was sold the most in units sold? Any ideas? Unilever. Not from the Unilever group, from another big group, but I think not what you might guess. I will show you. It's CeraVe. It's L'Oreal Group. But this is the pharma, this is dermocosmetic brand. This is the pharma cosmetic brand, which is not obvious to be the winner. I would expect Old Spice, right? I would expect this type of the big brands, but this is not the true. CeraVe was twice in the top 10 bestsellers products in the last 12 months. You could see how granular our data, by the way. You could see each SKU here. And we could see the specific product of this brand. I was super surprised to see this result, by the way, because I was expecting Dove, Rexona, Nivea, maybe something from Beiersdorf Group, right? From the German company. But actually, CeraVe was so successful here. And I was trying to understand what happened, what they did specifically to be so successful. And this is a combination of many, many factors which you could understand and analyze with the digital data. The first is just the demand for brand and the product that was very high. The second was the proper distribution balance, so focusing on the right distribution channel. The third one was also optimization on this channel, on Amazon specifically. There is a whole play with so-called MPO, marketplace optimization, when you need to optimize to be visible in the search results, but also pay for the clicks and invest a lot, of course, in retail media. So when we were looking at the demand for the CeraVe brand, we were looking at it from several points of view. The first was the Google searches for the brand. So we were looking how people were searching for CeraVe brand itself and all their products. So we were looking at so-called branded searches. And you could see that in Germany, it was 2 million searches last year, so a significant number of searches. Year before, even more, 3 million, which is usually quite nicely correlated with the brand building activities that are run on the social media, through the influential marketing, as well as on YouTube and the video advertising. When we looked at the spikes, I allowed myself, the presentation was prepared by myself, but here I allowed myself to use an AI agent. We just launched freshly inside of our product to check what was the reason of the spike, what was in this spike in May 24, and we got the information that hydrating cleanser had a plus 1,000% growth of the searches in this specific period of time. So we know it's a highly promoted or a new product. So we got something interesting. We know that there is a high demand. We could check then what consumers did after searching for CeraVe brand. What was their next step in the customer journey? So half of them continued to cerave.de, so to the brand.com website, but then the rest would be mostly choosing the retailers, with Shop, Apotheke being the main one, Amazon being the second, Douglas being the third. Some of them also would continue on YouTube to the brand channel of CeraVe on YouTube. Now, if you think that Shop Apotheke should be the main retail channel, you're actually mistaken, because even if Amazon captured only 10% of these searches, you need to remember that on Amazon, many customers are actually starting their journey. So not everyone would start on Google. So when we looked at the searches that happened inside on Amazon, so-called on-site searches, we could see that it was even more than on Google. It was 2.8 million of searches over the last 12 months for this brand. So that is like truly highlighting that Amazon is the most important channel that consumers will be searching CeraVe brand here, and we need to be, as a brand, prepared to that. So what happened with this demand for the CeraVe brand on Amazon? 94% of people that were searching for this brand on Amazon continued to CeraVe product pages. Around 6% of them to like a few other competitors. Now, CeraVe needed to pay for 34% of all the branded clicks. So people came to look for their brands, and they anyway needed to pay 30% of the clicks. Why is that? From two reasons. The first is to protect against competitors, because whenever the brand is in high demand, everybody is trying to bid for this brand just to attract the audience to the similar but cheaper product. That's a strategy of many cheaper disruptors. On the other side, they also wanted to attract people to their new products. So not to the products that people already know well and were purchasing, but to the new ones. So you could, for instance, see the third product here is the product that had the biggest share of the paid, so the light blue, and this is the product with no trend data. It means it's just a new one. Of course, CeraVe doesn't operate in a silo, and here we need to look at the context all the time, right? So whenever we see like they increase their sales, they didn't manage to increase significantly revenue year over year, but what happened with the category? And we were looking week by week at the category performance compared to the year before, and we see that there are some categories that are almost all the time green, but some of them have some like a deep red areas, like a week after week after week, and the face category was one of them. We were trying to understand like what's wrong with this face category, and we wanted to go from macro to more micro trends. So we had a look at retinol serum. Retinol serum is one of the also bestseller product from CeraVe, and we looked at this type of products. We created a custom product group with the retinol serums over the last 2 years. And what we spotted is that actually 2 years ago, in this category, there were like over 100 products listed. Right now, it's over 300 products listed. So this category moved from nearly blue ocean to the red ocean. What we also checked is that the search, so the demand for this type of products is flat. It didn't really change over these 2 years, while the share of clicks that you need to pay for increased dramatically, because now it's just harder and more expensive to get a click. And CeraVe also lost market shares, but in this market that was more crowded, which seems like a strategy that makes sense, because then you could shift the budget into the categories which are more blue oceans rather than the red oceans. And this is actually in the heart of the business strategy of like a smaller player in the industry. It's the Inkilist, British brand that like was a disruptor in the beauty industry a couple of years ago. Like their success was quite famous. And what they did was really genius. It's a very small company. I can tell you 2 years ago, I was checking, it was like 150 people like in total, right? Really, it's not like a, a gigantic one. And they created Inky IQ, which was like a consumer and market intelligence team that was looking at, of course, their clickstream data together with the voice of customers, because they created a community. So people were actually happy to share their skin concerns with them, right? And then they were looking at our data, in particular the keyword research, but also the competitive landscape, to identify these new areas which they could launch the products with a high potential to monetize. So they were looking at the specific areas when there are skin concerns, problems, needs that were not met by the beauty industry yet. So for instance, they realized that people were searching for solutions for the hyperpigmentation problem, that people are not only searching for the oily skin or acne, but like actually people have so many niche problems, and they were very agile in launching products that would address this niche skin concerns, which is like a brilliant strategy. So when you look at the graph here and you see the Google search volume around this niche skin, specific niche skin concerns around hyperpigmentation, and the lighter blue line, which is Amazon units sold, you could see at some point supply and demand would cross, right? So like there is a big demand for this type of the products. More and more beauty players would start to produce cosmetics to meet this specific demand. But at the beginning, they are alone, and they are owning the market and playing in the market with relatively small investment. And even today, this story with hyperpigmentation is already like 2 years old, but even today there are certain areas that when you go to the Amazon UK, the Inky list would be the first brand that will be visible and getting majority of the clicks from people that are searching for specific ingredients or for specific skin concerns. Like here we were conducting this study a year ago together with Statista on the US market, and we were looking at the correlation between the share of purchases across many different retail channels of the specific brands, with Similarweb being the number one here on the graph, and these are blue bars, and the correlation with the TikTok brand views, this is the black line. Essentially, it's nearly each time correlated, with some exception. We could see Garnier being an exception here, also the Inky list having much more brand views rather than units sold on the graph. Now, why is that? Essentially, the population that is TikTok users that moved later on to the retail website is more picky and more selective whenever thinking about the beauty purchase. So they would look at many other products. The consideration stage will be very long. They will come back to the YouTube video. They will come back to the TikTok video again before taking the final purchase, because beauty is simply an important thing to them. So they need some time to take the final decision. So this is one of the reasons why it's so it's nearly correlated, but with some exceptions here. Now, how ChatGPT is impacting the sales, we don't know yet, but we have checked how it's impacting the discovery and research process in the beauty category. So essentially, we checked this data in the UK very recently. It's like literally last 2 years data ending up with March this year. And we see that consumers are really turning to ChatGPT to ask for the specific advices around the beauty treatments, skin routines, and so on. Now, what we see is also that these searches, the type of the searches they would ask, are really more personalized. It's also in Google as well as on ChatGPT. You could find the type of the prompts like, what are the reviews of this specific product, or what is the best retinol alternative in pregnancy, or I've got this type of skin, like help me, right? Or what is the proper amount of the sunscreen? So even the post-purchase engagement. So these are the type of the questions that consumers would ask AI bots. Now, what's very important is not only what they are asking, but based on what ChatGPT would respond to them. So, so what we saw is that ChatGPT really relies on the variety of sources. The brand.com is not the most important one here, but it also depends if it has like a very good quality content or community inside, like Inkilist, it would be referred more often. Retailers, not super often, but publisher and social media being the main two channels of reference. The more content, the more human the content is, like that's funny, like the more human, the more ChatGPT friendly, but essentially then it will be much more reference. So reviews coming from the community, people, like even small influencers, but preparing a long content about the products, this is something which ChatGPT decides to trust in. Now, this is all about the beauty category insights. I've prepared here 2 QR codes. The first is the state of digital consumer, the tariffs impact. This one is specifically on the US. You could find this report under this QR code. And this one is the page when you could check for free category trends on Amazon in Germany. There is like a super free version with the top trends. If you register for a full trial, which is still the free trial, you will get to even more details. So this is something if you want to look at the German market. Now, we have gone through this beauty section of the presentation. I know it's a lot, but I will need to run very fast through the second part, which is on financial services. I hope you will stay engaged with me. What is happening in the financial services, like a context maybe before I will get into the details, a lot of instability and a lot of friction. And we see like a tariff wars, global instability. We see the investment fog, like what's happening on the public market. Not sure if you're playing this casino game on New York Stock Exchange, rising cost of living and the cost of living crisis. And in the end, consumers need just smarter tools to navigate their financial future. They are selecting the apps that are, for instance, helping them to plan their budget, but also looking for a specific advice when it comes to taking very serious decisions like investments or mortgages. So in the past, what was the typical journey in the financial services? It was just starting in Google search. So people were searching budgeting apps, keywords, or people were searching how to plan the budget, or what is the best mortgage like offer right now. This is how the journey looked like. Now it's of course changing with the ChatGPT, which is right now much more rapidly, rather than in consumer goods, already changing people behavior. We analyze the data in the US and in the UK, also looking where the financial instability was like higher, in particular in the recent, over the recent period of time. And we saw how much, that's the green area, ChatGPT type of prompts around financial services are growing. The orange line is Google. Google is flat, it's the indexed value. Google is of course much higher, but it's showing there is no trend. On ChatGPT, there is like a significant growth, like a 2x or even 3x, depends if it's the US or the UK. Now, because ChatGPT is becoming so important source of customer advice in the financial decisions, it can calculate the total cost of the mortgage loan, for instance, for you, giving you all the hidden costs and so on. So people started to trust it more and more. Now, we were trying to understand, what is the impact on the traffic in the end of the day of the specific banking websites. And it turned out that ChatGPT started to be nearly as significant as the mortgage calculators website. So this is like a nearly this scale already. But again, when we looked at what ChatGPT was using to respond, that was quite interesting because it was really over-indexing the digital native and app-first banks, such as Monzo. You could see like the two specific links that ChatGPT was referencing to. So GenAI does it because it really is optimized to look at customers' feedback, not the SEO, right? Technicalities, which is very actually close to what app economy is doing. And this is why the app-first banks are much more referred by ChatGPT rather than traditional ones. We did a very, very short market landscape of the financial services, trying to understand the apps that are the most needed, so people use it on the regular basis. This is how we are calculating so-called daily stickiness, so the percentage of users using app every day to the monthly active users. And on the other dimension, the most loved apps, so apps that people actually were rated the higher with the most positive sentiment. And when you look at the British landscape of the apps on both iOS and Android devices, you need to see that Monzo is the absolute leader from both dimension. That's a disruptive bank, which is, really changed the landscape in the banking in the UK. Now, there is another reason why apps would grow and would be successful. So it's not only the being needed, it's not only being loved, but also how much it's powered with the marketing budget and how much there is marketing powered growth. So the most healthy businesses have a lot of downloads, but also an increased growth of monthly active users year over year. Because if you have only marketing downloads, so only downloads, which is a marketing spend proxy, but you don't have the sustainable user growth, you have a very high cost of the customer acquisition, and you're essentially burning the cash. If you have it balanced with the growth of the MAU year over year, going in line with the growth of the downloads, and you're over the line, then you're a healthy business. And this is how Monzo is. Also Revolut, which is another disruptor in the industry. This is the best signal of having really healthy product market fit. So let's have a closer look at Monzo and try to understand what was actually behind this growth. Monzo is a very interesting bank because they were really obsessed about the customer's community and the innovations in the product. And this is how they build their brand. This is how they build the entire company culture. And this is also where, when you go to their website, you will see mostly what consumers say about Monzo. In the last year in the UK, Monzo added 1 million new active users year over year on iOS. They are anyway the biggest bank in the UK in terms of the number of active users on the mobile app, in the mobile banking. But even if they are so large, they managed to add 1 million new. They are leading across every KPI across the full funnel, starting from the store downloads, so the downloads from the App Store and Google Play, then moving to the rating, so how people assess them. It's a 4.86, so this is the highest in the category. Revolut, by the way, is as high. Then monthly active users, as I mentioned, but also the daily stickiness, which is 39%. So this is super high from all the points of view. Now, I was asking myself, what they actually did to build such a loyal user base and what they did to still increase this growth through the customer advocacy. So they are very famous from building a product which is positioned to the very tech-savvy community, so people who would appreciate all the innovations in the banking app. Even the releases of each new app version, which they publish on the App Store or Google Play, are presented as a communication as a marketing communication. So you could see just 2 examples on the screen, and this is like, just they are running a dialogue with their customers. They share publicly their product roadmap, and people can comment, and people can vote which feature they want to have in the product. It's very open communication with the customers and community building. Also, they are increasingly focusing on the app improvements in the key areas, in particular security, login, and stability, which is the most important for the mobile banking users. And you could see that nearly all of them, they significantly improved over the last 6 months. They released 2 product updates every month. This is how often they are changing their app. So this is also a crazy product development cost here behind. But what they actually did last year is increasing the pricing. And when you look at the pricing and payment sentiment, it only slightly changed. So even if they did something which was they thought it's going to be nearly not accepted by the community, they built such an amazing product, such an amazing experience that people, only slightly negative way commented the price increase. Of course, Monzo pushed the entire British market to move up and leverage the customer experience, product innovation. Traditional banks such as Lloyd, they also rebranded. They started to test new features. They started to react very fast to the negative reviews. You can see on the chart here the spike of the negative reviews. They started to react fast and fix the problems, which in the past didn't happen perfectly. Right now, the entire market is just much more customer friendly. And when you think about the Monzo customers, they are actually sharing a lot of their data with Monzo because they just, they want to give the feedback. They are asked for the feedback and they want to give it back. So to summarize this section, the growth engines for the fintech apps would be having an amazing product which would be very needed, very often used, well-rated, so the most loved products. But of course, it must go together with the promotion, and then the growth will happen. All these 3 pillars wouldn't happen without listening to customers and being really customers obsessed. If you're interested in learning more about this financial services insights, we have the report, which is just being launched, I think, tomorrow. But the QR code should already work, so you could also scan it and download this report for free. It's been a long, full of insights presentation, so I appreciate you stayed so long with me. Here, I think it's the conclusion is very clear. The market is changing very fast. You need really a lot of market intelligence insights across the apps, across the websites, across the marketplaces, search engines, and chatbots. We are happy to provide all of this. If you want to stay in touch, reach out to me on LinkedIn, or I'm here for any questions you might have right after the presentation. Thank you so much.
Does anyone want to ask any questions? I have a mic here.
We can also have the casual Q&A, so if you just want to ask any question, you could just come here and we could speak without the headsets.